Woke up this morning, was gonna go outside and crank the truck up, crank it up, warmed it up, left my keys in the front yard last night, forgot all about it. Nikki ordered our breakfast, so I said, well, I'll go through and go warm the truck up on the front porch, and bam, look what we got. We got our bearings right here. Here's all my wheel bearings, so now we just gotta go through and see if the wheel stuff fits, and then I also got my frames, my chain adjusters right here. They came, so now we got the stuff to really start mounting the back wheel and building the shims. That's what I really needed, just to start on the back wheel stuff, and now we can go from there. I can start building everything else. So I made sure first and foremost that all the bearings fit good up on the shaft. They do. So now let's start fitting them, see if they fit in their holes good. First bearing's gonna fit perfect. See that right there? And that is a part number. I don't know if that's the part number or not. Let's just check and see if that's what that is. (6002-2RS). I don't know. Let me see if these got different numbers on. 3RS. Okay. Okay, yeah, it is the part number. So the part number is. This is for the actual sprocket side, the intermediate, the middle one. It takes a 6002-2RS, and that's the correct bearing right there for that. Let me knock that in real quick. One other thing you gotta think about is the piece that goes through the shaft here, the spacer. So this spacer will fit this side, no problem. The other side I will have to grind to get it to fit. So this is my original spacer that was in my wheel. So I'll have to cut it off because that should be the proper spacing from this lip to that other lip should be this wide. So I'll be able to mark it, cut it off, saying that'll give me the correct space. Basically, you don't want these bearings. You want these bearings riding like this. You don't want to take and leave this out, and then when that thing clamps, this don't have any tie because it'll eventually break the wheel. You have to have this so it side loads that bearing. So that's a simple fix. All right, the one for the hub here, for the sprocket hub, 6203RS. And it slides to there, and I'm gonna have to tap it on in down in there. That bearing right there fits perfect too. So here's something else you gotta think about. So that bearing fits perfect in there, okay? Well, this bearing here had this right here on the inside. And this is basically the spacing difference to take the space out between it and the next bearing that goes in. So it would flip face down like that, and that's what would take the inside, the side load out of these bearings. So now I got one of two options. I could take this right here. I could not even worry about that bearing, put this bearing back in, machine that to 17 millimeters, which we have enough space. I could have that machined to 17 millimeters, and then I would have the exact back load that I need, or I can go in here and cut this off and just use it as a spacer, either or. Figure that out. I ain't made up my mind yet on what I want to do. I might use this bearing here and just go ahead and just have it, just drill that out to 17 millimeters and get that there. The one issue that we're gonna have, period, and I knew this when I ordered the stuff, is, look all that up, this bearing here. This is 17 millimeters. The closest bearing they make to this is 40 millimeters. Well, if you look, we don't have enough hub here for a 40 millimeter bearing. You'd lose that. So I ordered a 35 millimeter, and of course that ain't gonna work. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna see if I can get somebody here local to make me a 1 millimeter shim to fit around this circumference. And if that right there, we could put 1 millimeter shim around it, then ideally this right here, 1 millimeters on both sides, would put me at 37 millimeters, which will give me the right spacing. And that bearing is a 6003RS. So let me look into that, That's all I gotta do is get that part took care of, and we'll be good to go on that. So after measuring that shaft to this shaft, what I did, I took me some tape and I tape lined it, and I dusted it with a light little bit of paint, so I know, because when you cut, you have to watch your cutting blade is a certain width, so you gotta make sure your high side of your blade catches that line. Don't just come split you with centers on. So see, if this was a cutting tool, you're not gonna come here and cut like this, because guess what, you're gonna have half of that overhang. So you're gonna actually cut here and then just finesse the last little bit, because your blade, whatever your distance of your blade width, you got to make sure that you're on the high side of it with your blade if you're cutting through, because you don't want to hit this up here, and then I'll polish it out. But right there, like I said, that gives me right where I need to be at. So what I'll probably do, I'll take this over to Nigel to put on his bandsaw. He's got a real nice bandsaw. I'll probably just go clamp it in it. It won't take but just a minute to cut that off. Be a lot faster than me in here with a cut-off wheel or side grinder. I can just cut it, it'll be a lot nicer, and then I can polish the edge back out. So that's simple stuff. So I knocked the bearing out on it, so I could get in here and measure this spacer we need. And this spacer comes out to be, it says 19 millimeters. So that's where our spacer comes out to be. So we need to be right at 19 millimeters to that flange when I knock the bearing in. So ideally, I need to come in here, cut this thing back to 19 millimeters, which is right there at that bevel, and we should be good. That should put us right on. We should have a perfect spacer for this to ride in. Well, we gotta go through. We're gonna have to cut some off. I'm gonna have to grind out our edge of this off. I'm gonna have to take the bevel off of it too. That'll be easy. I'll grind the bevel off. Okay, that makes sense. I'm gonna grind that bevel down and cut this to 19.03. So right at 19. Then I'll be able to have my right spacer for that. You know what? I just got to thinking about it. And on this thing right here, I might have to space this thing out some. Might have to make it solid and then space the gear out some, because you know what I just got thinking about is on this wheel. Hold on 1 second. So what I got thinking about is this wheel right here, this wheel right here is narrower than the stock wheel. So if you look at that, my sprocket's gonna have to be, see the alignment on it? It's gonna have to be somewhere about right here. So actually what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna put the bearing solid. I'm gonna keep this tight as I can and do the spacer. And I'm gonna have to build, I'm gonna put longer bolts in this and build me a spacer to move the factory sprocket out to where it'll go in line with that. Just now I thought about that, because I was thinking about that spacer, but now you wanna keep this as tight as you can. So now I'll have to take these bolts off, give me some grade 8 bolts, bring it over, get that in line. Once I get the axle centered, it's eyeballed right now. And I'm also gonna have to do the same over here for the brake rotor. I'm gonna have to come out here, take these off, build me some spacers, put me some longer bolts in, and move the brake rotor over some. That way it'll hit right there where it's supposed to. So I got thinking that bearing right there is the perfect outer diameter. So I'll hit this case right here. I'm gonna split these bearings apart, and what the way you do it, you get these bearings all over one side, and I can slide this piece out and I can pop the bearings out. And then I need to get somebody, see if I can't get somebody that can put that in the lathe and turn that thing down to basically where this bearing can fit inside of it. It's only, like I said, it's only a millimeter on each side. So I need somebody who can put this in a lathe, trim it down to where it'll fit over top of that one. Then ideally we'll have a spacer made that'll work for what we need. See, once I pulled that case apart, got it broke out of there. Like I said, the bearings, just get them all stacked up on one side, because that's kind of how they assemble these things. I suppose it's the only way it makes sense to me how they do it. They go through and they load them all on one side, then they spread them out, and then they put that cage around it to get it to hold its center between them. So once you break the cage, you break the support, then you can go through and get it apart. So like that, then you spread your bearings around it, move them around slowly and get it centered up. And that's how bearings work. So I knocked it apart. Now I just need to go find somebody who can turn that down right there. Like I said, we need that to where, since it fits here, I don't know where my other bearing's at right now. I don't know where I put it at. Oh well, I'll find it in a minute. It's probably in my pocket or something. Well, hey guys, old Thornburg machine here in Lincoln hooked me up. They got me machined out. So that way, that's a front wheel bearing from the 400 that has a 17mm shaft. I think that's a 40mm outside. So I had them go through and machine it where that right there, they put it in their lathe. And they turned it where that thing right there would fit, where that bearing would fit up in there. Looks good. Sorry about the camera, I'm driving. And for anybody wondering, that's a 623 NSE. That's the bearing number for that. While there were nodules, I went ahead and cut this a minute ago. That way it would fit. And I bored that center hole out myself. So now I got to knock the bearing down in it, clean everything up, make sure everything's centered. Should be good. There you go on this side. Everything looks good here, so. Look. Boom. There you go. Now I got to brake clean everything off. Take this right here. Oh, look at that. We got the wheel now, guys. Look at that. Should be good. One step closer. So I measured from bearing outside to bearing outside, and that's the measurement we come up with, 146mm. So now I can measure my swing arm and know how wide of a spacer I need on both sides of it to get my spacing right. Now I still got to come in here, pull this off, and build me a spacer from there to there. That's the next thing I'm going to work on real quick. So I went through and tapered this, that way it wouldn't rub the wheel around it when it's centered up. And it fits on the inside of there real good, and it don't rub the inside of that. So it should be good. Here you go. Now I just got to build my spacers on both sides. And then I got to build spacers to adapt the rotor and the sprocket over a little bit to line all this stuff up to get this wheel centered. But all in all, at least we got a wheel that can be mounted now. So what I did, I measured the rotor to the wheel. Got that exact measurement on it. I use my calipers like this. And I come over to this side. I got my calipers there. So right now I have my wheel dead center of where it should be at. So let me go through and figure out what the spacing is I need on these spacers, and we can go from there. I know the bearing set in almost 9mm or whatever up inside here will get me flush. I think it's 8 on this side, 9 on that side. So I can take that out and add it to whatever this is. That should get us good. So now I got these spacers right here. Well, yeah, I did. It's good. So that's going to get me close to the space. It's a little bit longer than what I need, by about 2mm. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take my grinder. This is the front axle that don't matter. I'm going to grind that all level. And then once I grind it all level, then I'm going to weld them together, and then I'm going to re-grind it and make me a smooth spacer out of it. And like I said, they feel so tight, that shaft, everything's perfectly in line, so it'd be easy to do. So now I've turned that down a little bit with my grinder. I V it a little bit right on the edge. That way when I put two of them together, I got a good spot to weld. So let me go and get the other one ready. I'll show you what I'm talking about. I got all three pieces turned down. Now let's go through and weld them together, re-grind them, and then make it the right length. So I'm gonna weld it together. She's ugly now, but let's see if we can't clean this thing up. There it is. I can always go back there and weld up all them little spots around through there. There's a little spot on over here. But I'm gonna paint it black anyway, so it don't even matter. Now let's get it the right width. That's putting us in the ballpark. We're in the right area. So we're good on that side. So now I gotta build my spacers for this side, start getting my brake caliper stuff to work. Then I gotta go back through and make a adapters to that sprocket. Will line up with that front sprocket. So I got the center of it slide up on it. So now let's windle the outside of it down. Let's get it let's grind that big glob off. Watch it. Wish I could video as I was grinding, but don't have my GoPro, so y'all just have to imagine. There we go. So now we got a spacer. Now I need to make sure that the distance is the right distance that we need. We should be good and be ready for some paint. So I kind of did something. The outside of this wheel was shoot up a little bit from my rack on my back of my truck, so I was gonna strip it off and repaint it. It's turning into more of a mess than what I really anticipated, but we'll get it all. We got all the paint off of it, and I can respray it, get it cleaned up. I should just paint it over what was there, but I was trying to get it stripped down. So please take it outside, put it on the pressure washer, and see if I can't clean it up. Anyways, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. I'll see you one later. Thank you.